Greetings, it's Intuitive Jacob, your shaman and cosmic midwife, and I'm back to do a daily reading for you, taking a look at the cosmic opportunities, talking a little bit about this new moon that's on the way, and getting some messages with La Vera Sibila, and a little help from Archangel Gabriel. And I'm hearing for some of you all, especially if you've been waiting to hear back from somebody, I'm hearing there's some special delivery on the way. I'll catch you on the inside.
Promise that you'll catch me.
Hi there. So somebody's been waiting for something, and I was actually seeing the personal delivery message, the messagere card. Sometimes that shows up when somebody actually comes directly to your door. And for some of you, that is very, very good news. If you've been waiting to hear back from somebody on something, hearing for some of you, oh gosh, whoa, spilling cards everywhere. So I heard 6 to life. I don't know what that means, but I just heard 6 to life. And the 6 is what was looking at me when I saw this, and it was weird because I don't even know if this makes any sense, but the Lanemica card shows up, and I'm hearing it was something about a cover-up. Sometimes this has to do with like an enemy or somebody that's two-faced that might be playing sabotage, but this Prigione card showed up here too, and I'm hearing for somebody, if that has to do with a legal matter, like something that's been going on, that somebody's actually going to be served with papers, and that's what that's actually about. Interesting. Could probably get some more messages if I focus on that a little bit more, but we're not going to go there yet. I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle these here, and we are going to move to the solar fire map. I want to take a little look with you on what's showing up here with today's chart. Let's put this in the right place. So we have been talking about the moon. We've been discussing the moon and the landing coordinates, where we as a group that has actually performed a collective on a shared intention would do in one idea of what these energies are for and how they get spent. And I've got these caduceus everywhere. Let me move that out of the way right now. I've been doing some work with some of you here with the caduceus and explaining how in the cosmic printer, where these particles literally are shared with us from these different planets, you know, the plans with energy that land on us, that we can also now, with mathematics, track via hexadecimal code, like these colors here, where some of these things are infused. And so we've been taking a specific journey. Those of you, thank you for being here in Private Halo 8 with me, and those that also catch this later on YouTube or DLive or DTube. I haven't been on DLive. I don't know why I keep talking about it. When I upload this later. Got to this one a little bit later today. It's been a very busy day here in my household, and we've had all kinds of things going on. So what we know for sure is that we left off where the virtuoso energy that we have identified, that is in your Akashic record, is in my Akashic record, is in each one of our Akashic records, is intact. Somebody tried to sell these out. You've been wound up like electronic dolls, my loves, okay? And we are now making sure that all of our records are in a safe place. It's like being in a vault. We woke up in a smash of particles with these ideas that our life was a certain thing. And it's just because of the naturalization of how it all came together. And it's like you woke up in a movie. Some of those things may or may not have happened the way you recall them because of how the inception got put together. And so now we're taking a new look at what is inside these particle packs, these bodies, part and parcel. And now that we understand it, what we have in this protective chamber here is getting sort of a rinse. It's being moved around. And now that we have the magnets that we can control more lovingly with mathematics, because this is actually a machine, my loves, we are stepping into a new time. So yesterday we left off on the virtuoso spirit and energy being safe for the young woman who was sitting at a piano improvising beautiful music, and maybe the parts of us that wake up to these skills that we have naturally that are already inside these bodies. It's like it's in the muscle memory somewhere. And so we've been walking through this. We were talking about the things that happened, like the boy removing a thorn from his foot, and how we painted a new fresco on the ceilings together. And I literally had somebody here painting the house. And so we left off with the field of jasmine flowers, a woman with many different colored rings on her fingers, and the woman with different colored nails who's been tapping along, and the red-faced man with tears running down his cheeks. And then we got to the point where we discussed what would happen if we changed the name of a rose. Would it smell as sweet? And we remembered that we might have been asked the wrong question. But the truth is that it's no longer a rose anymore if you change the name, because of how energy gets pushed through the design of the word alone. So the hummingbird technique that went out with our DARPA roundup and the FEMA sweeps left us at Leo 19 yesterday, where hummingbird was feeding at a trumpet vine and proving what ET might look like out of the jacket. We also found that the little black pearl that was in our eyes, these, the little dark spot where your pupil, the student inside that observes you and me, knows what the iris knows, or if I wink at you, is it the IRS? And where the oyster is hidden inside, and where some of us were just being put to the test to see how lovingly intelligent we were and whether or not we made it into this hermetic vial. So today, this is some of what's been going on, and why I say it with a smile, and I won't say rather reluctantly either. I found it hilarious just how some of these things get prescribed to us about what to expect in a 2D timeline where people will tell you the symptoms that you're going to have just to stay in a state of pain. And this energy, as beguiling as it is to want to contain ourselves this way because it sounds like what we're being pulled into, I'm going to caution you not to age yourself in this and sage yourself in that. I'm just reading to you the definition of what they say in this ephemeris. Thursday, September 26th is a good day for getting to the bottom of things, because that's when intense Mercury comes into conflict with Pluto. So here's where first I'm going to just debunk the fuck out of that, because I get to speak to you as both of those planets. My Mercury placement is 20 degrees Capricorn, which is the location of Pluto. It's where it's been for a long time while we've been doing this assessment of what even gets created in what is not going to be considered the future, because there is no future or past. There's just the moment now where we're assessing what's actually going to be infused with any energy whatsoever, because this is the lockdown. Okay, that's what kind of energy this is here. And those of you that are listening to this here, you're very safe because you are in this sound bubble with me. People that are not involved in this, I'm not talking to them at all. It has nothing to do with them. Okay, so this is a hermetic exploration of what made into my biosphere and what I actually am protecting with what ends up being about $19 trillion in DARPA resources, and combined with my Bitcoin and private holdings that have all gone into this technology and the nucleization of a new form that we get to share together. And so I'm speaking to you as Pluto, which is like, hi, I'm the end of the world. I'm the guy that died and I get to say what happened here, as Mercury. And so there's no conflict between Mercury and Pluto. Let's just get that first. Let's just make sure we understand that, because what we're actually reading here is the plans for what actually happens with the twins, what actually happens with the energy that is a perfect conduit, and why the caduceus has been in some of these things. Why keep spinning this here? So that you can see how we plant that and what the energy does, and what the alluvial gold concentrate has been doing, what's actually been banked in the private reserve that some of you don't understand, in the Federal Reserve, and what people have highly misinterpreted about the yellow brick road is how we concentrate in the sarcophagus where we were pinned and we woke up in these bodies. You're literally, if you're one of the angels that ascended from inside you, are ascending into a body that is made of these things like gold. And so it's why, if you study things like the Anunnaki and the old Sumerian texts, they are looking for the gold for those in Planet X who understood what the package was, is the Bitcoin of your body. It's like the baby slipper that woke up because somebody might have tried to walk on you wrong, but you woke up inside that body there. And you have little bit of everything that exploded in the entire cosmos. And some of us have such a perfect sample that we are actually in this halo together. And so what we're looking at here is a new way to express ourselves as a form. I don't call us humans at this point either, because that's actually just a bad replication name on what a form might look like. We are beings of love that never took the energy out of hue or out of names to grab to be in that form. So this is where we go to talking about things a little bit differently, and where there's no conflict between Pluto and Mercury whatsoever. We're talking about how we define ourselves as the race that was mastered by sound. This is a creative universe that has created everything based on sound. And as soon as we took an idolatry look at it and wrote things down or tried to draw images and faces, graven images, we became staked to the energy that came forward and how it landed. And so these are the things that we can see with what astrology is showing us here in a whole new way when we juxtapose it to how the light actually travels also within this. And so what I'm looking at here is a wonderful way that we have been able to bridge these things, and why, for me, this is more about these quincunx energies here that show where we might be taking a different reflection on how energy is passed between houses and planets because of how they mix together and integrate, and when we take a breath, show up in our form, how that energy gets mixed and integrated. And so today, I feel like this is actually highly auspicious because, you know, we're looking at these two sextiles here between Jupiter and the Sun, and also the natal ascendant and the Sun. And it's like how we choose to wake up in the morning is kind of how the guides are speaking to me about it. It's like, how do you choose to wake up in this day? Do you wake up feeling a little lucky that you understand something that might seem a little inconvenient and weird now, okay, but actually gives you a better understanding of the lay of the land that you're in, versus some of the things that might have been able to be in your way that could just bother you because you were used to having them there and dealing with them. Now there are certain things that are not going to bother you because you know they're absolutely fake. Even if they appear to you to be in form and like in your face is real, some of these things are conjures. They've literally been called in by people designing weird things with law of attraction, and where all of these forms actually have taken a face and a shape and found a way to intermingle in this thing. And so this is where this is kind of shaking apart, TBH. And this is why maybe some people will consider that Mercury and Pluto are having some kind of conflict. And I bet some people had some conversations that didn't go great either. You know, I mean, my neighbor next door got into an accident today. Somebody, you know, took out the front of her car. That could be kind of a weird Plutonian situation, the way that it had happened, and also not being able to communicate with the person who hit her, who was taken straight to the emergency room. Weird things like that were happening. Some people are having crunch communication, but it's becoming clear that some of this was just karmic backlash. And so I wonder, why are we creating more of this right now? Some of these things don't look like they're mutually exclusive, and they don't have to be. And other things actually have been proven to us that when you pull the energies together, they have a completely different effect that in some cases doesn't get spoken to properly. And I think it's because we don't see ourselves in that forest. It's like we can't see the forest for the trees. And it's like, what if you're the tree? What if you're literally the tree and you don't see that? It's problematic. And so I think we need to take a new look at how we're designing these things and how we even allow ourselves to attach to an outcome of what it means. And so it's difficult for me to speak about some of these things in a traditional sounding way, feeling like I'm even empowering people at all. So I have to talk about this in the way that actually makes sense to me. And the way that makes sense to me is seeing that in this, while we are deciding how we want to wake up in the day, this is what the first house is all about. It's your appearance in life. It's how you show up to the world. It's everything in the light of your day. And so we're taking a look at the sextile energy. It's a good, interesting way that these energies can communicate. Sextiles seem to get along well. They feed off of each other in a good way. It's generally a positive sort of mix. And it's reflecting here on the sun. So it's a lot of like, what are we doing in the light of our day? What are we doing is regarding luck and how we choose to expand things into our 11th house matters. And this is a big thing because this is like the dawning of the age of Aquarius energy. It's the 11, it's the twins, it's the mutual ascending columns, and it's where all the energy shoots through the tunnel. And so this is where we're looking at where do we need to change some things in the design. And so we also have this quincunx here that's reflecting back on 4th house matters. What gets to happen? What does the Emperor, House of 4, and the stability and roots and foundation represented by, let's pop a Neptune here. Let's just call that one Poseidon here. What does he say in his overview when we're looking at this with a retrospective? Because there is actually a retrograde on this planet right now, and where we're actually kind of drawing a line. Bless you, baby. Drawing a line here. As it pertains to Venusian matters. So what's Venus? This is our love and creativity. This is how we want to like make love and create art and be these things in our house of how we ascend in our columns, our ascension column. The 11th house matters, where we're being challenged by what Uranus would really want us to do, because that, and also Saturn reflecting on Aquarian matters for being in that house, and why we're also taking a look at this here with another quincunx that goes from the 6th house. This is our day-to-day habits as a collection, as a people, and where we draw the line. And so it's like some of these things just get quelled and shut out of our house because of how this goes. So it's literally like we're looking at how we draw origami, and we just close some things, and it's like rolling up your burrito a certain way so that the stuff isn't hanging out the sides. Kind of, it's like we're in this burrito, like folding it together, and we're moving the ingredients around just a little bit every day. And so I feel like this is very good communication, and I feel like this is awesome, and what we're looking for is more balance. That's why there are so many things going on in these two places. We had a stellium recently in Virgo. Everything was in Virgo. It was the sun, the moon, Venus, Mars, and who else? We had the ascendant. Everything has passed through there. It was like all of our personal planets were there in a big huddle, deciding how these energies get expressed. How do we express our masculine and feminine energies as a people? How does this perpetuate forward in perpetuity? How does this energy get endeavored? And how do we grow into this new thing that as I mentioned yesterday, I'm very excited about this new moon in Libra. This is evidence of the energy coming full circle where nothing got pulled out and where we literally can see it, even in the glyph. It's even in the glyph, the symbol of Libra. It's like what was inside the unleavened and where things had to rise from within. And so we are seeing a hard position being taken energetically in the cosmos to draw these things into a nucleus where we are able to expand from more of a collected source than being in so many different places where everybody wants to be the master and wants to be the ruler and wants to play God and have all of these branches and sects where it's just like constantly spurning tentacles. And now that can't really happen. It's like we've been quantized. We're in this other frame here. And so I find this highly auspicious. And this is what we have ahead of us. Settle down, my darling. My little girl is whining over. Those of you who want to say hi to Jolie, this is my baby. Okay, so where we landed has been in these things together. And so the black pearl hidden in the oyster, where we're awakening, was protected. A holly bush covered in berries. It was in the snow because it froze over someplace. And then we were told why these little bitty things would not be fed to a hungry alligator who was lurking around in the swamp. And why today it was important that we knew that and we chose things correctly, because at the time of the new moons, too, any moon cycles, there are people that do intentional work. People will cut things for endings and beginnings. People will make prayers. People will make spells. They will cast things. And when there's chaos, because everyone's playing law of attraction and it's just going everywhere, what gets cut sometimes affects the people that are caught in the crosshairs. And that's why some of us have chosen to land on these moon degrees differently with our set intention, because there's power in this intention as one strong inception. And so the things that don't get cut wrong are where we woke up today. And that's why I'm going to start this one, because we were here at Leo 23, where an old man was cutting mistletoe off an oak tree with a golden knife. But if you were here in private Halo 8 with me, you would see a not so old man who was like doing handyman work and stuff and had a Victorinox SD around his neck and was cutting things with that instead. So I'll just say that just in case you get nervous about any of these energies, because we're showing what's on the other side of this and how we can selectively particle pack that, and how I'm simply just a hermetic example of exactly what's happening every day. So spectacular attainment on Leo 23 is how this starts. And let me give you a different view. I think some of you all like to see the book while I'm toggling. What do we got? We've got Inside Degrees. Developing Your Soul Biography Using the Chandra Symbols by Elias Lonsdale. And we're going to talk about this because I did tell you yesterday we were going to have a little talk about Stonehenge. This is one of the areas we're passing through today, and how we have a new calculator to show what happens with those 12 pillars, where you didn't get bastardized and turned into salt and left behind like that, but now we have a pepper shaker and a cracker that works really good. And where some of this stuff is going is inside in your inner state. So Leo 23, an old man cutting mistletoe off an oak tree with a golden knife. Spectacular attainment, peak capacity, everything prepared and ready, the consummation of lifetimes in the destiny drama of self-mastery, your tireless pursuit of perfection and gift of knowing what is asked are charged with collective power, making out a pathway which shall remain always. The gods inspire, the hour is ripe, demonstration is constant, the rhythm is the one, the inner worlds are synchronized with, and the whole idea is to become selflessly yourself, offered to the goddess and emergent through time as the God-man, boldly, uninhibited, all there. And that's what we were just talking about. It's the integration of these masculine and feminine counterparts as viewed by, here, they're talking about gods, the gods. I don't venture that far. I don't really anthropomorphize people and put them on those pedestals. I don't think even God would maybe want to be God. Who wants to be stuck like that? It's like being everybody's computer. It's a very thankless task. It's like being treated like an ATM. And so this is where we transcend that, because demonstration is constant. And these are the things that we're actually seeing in these charts that I've been explaining to you. And so it's a new sunrise over Stonehenge. And we walked through this today. Immortal stature, undiminished interior presence, and the things that we walk through differently, where none of us were beat down that way just for learning how to work with the clay. Why we took the ride we did last Friday with the Fun Factory. So today we're learning about the things that came up in the simulation, because what we actually did last Friday, it's been almost a full strong 7 days in this fortnight, for these things to be recreated in an inception model where we're moving particles in a way that nobody can really see on the outside yet. It's like squeezing it through a grater, but then it comes out in pieces, and while certain things get removed, the pieces come together almost like Tetris. And so you might investigate the Tesseract form. We'll show you a little bit how these things work mathematically and what they might look like, but we're actually recreating how things come together. And so these are actually the things that are in the fractal of creation that happened on today's walk. So a circle of neat houses, each one is identical. It's like us figuring out the 0-point source code that gets parcel packed for every single person. So it's like we get printed with this, but it's only your coordinates. And so that happened. A fire burns at the bottom of an old well. A beaded curtain, men doing gymnastics, a broken sword, woman sprinkling rose water in the four corners of a room, and hearing all of these things might not mean a whole lot to you. These are just the bullet points that cover each one of the degrees that have passed on this clock that was in the pepper shaker today. And so I'm going to flip back over here too. I'll come back to this in a bit, but I want to show you where we actually pulled this together. First of all, let me back it up. We have... Okay, so when I had prepared this to do this earlier, I was setting up these charts. When I set the charts up, just because I'm also using myself as the Pluto example here, because of where I actually am in this collective reading, I have to speak to you about my personal experience with this and why I'm talking to you about it this way, in a way that nobody else will talk to you about it. The way I pulled this up, this was actually at 11:11 my time. And so, let's see here. Jolie, settle down, baby. What we're looking at is where the moon is actually placed on this degree. Go. There it is. All right. And the degree that we're looking at here, where this has moved, is at 3 degrees Aries. And so I'm being asked to move to where we have walked. Settle down, baby. Settle down, baby. The little girl is over here whining. She wants to be in every shot these days. Where are we? Ah, here we go. So I thought this was really interesting because Aries 3 Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Chiron. I need to tell you before I read the moon degree here. I'm being brought to where Chiron is here. I'm sorry. I was misspeaking to you. I was looking at this. Let me show you what I'm looking at. This quincunx here. That goes from Chiron, our wounded healer, which I relate to a lot, you know, being the not dead guy anymore that gave up his sternum and really bad surgery and has 3 titanium ribs and a couple of dead guy bones. I'm like the wounded healer here. And this relationship that we're having with the moon right now. And so before I, go to read where the moon is here and where she's moving, because earlier today this was 3 degrees Virgo here where I was looking, but now since I've come back and opened this up, our moon has actually moved. We're now at 8 degrees, and so I'm going to read these different points where we've kind of pronged to have these conversations because they're important. They keep showing up in ways that also happen in my physical world, and I'm making sure that I document those with you too so you can see the comparison. What I like about it and why it was standing out to me here is because we're talking about how these quincunx are sort of like where we draw a line in the sand too. It's sort of like where it's like to here but no further. Like we're taking a hard look at this relationship where something might happen between these energies and how they're relating to each other and where they are faced off, if you will. And so a quincunx sometimes is a little bit of a challenging aspect for people. They don't always like them. It's like sometimes these things don't have as much to do with each other where they naturally relate. And for us, in this situation, the way that we're tracking the moon, it's actually really good data to show us, well, do we want to move this way with that energy or do we want to just stop it here? We don't necessarily have to go this other way, but sometimes we just draw a line and know we don't sprinkle any of that energy on this other side because it doesn't work as well, right? So here's how this is being analyzed right now is from the position of where Chiron gets involved, our wounded healer, the one that's like, okay, I've been down this road and let me tell you, it's not worth it going that way. If I had to do it again, I'd go this other way. And so this is where the shaman in me like really loves to talk to you too, because I've been through so much like that. And he's protecting here in the 5th house, because the 5th house is things that you love. It's your house of Venus. This is the stuff that's coming to birth right now, why we're talking about all of this in general, and why there's so much going on in Libra right now, in the Libra sun, and with Venus here in Libra, with the communication being all about that here in Mercury. It's like, what needs to happen so that this really shines and is protected in our fertility center, the way that we make love and become art and protect that virtuoso? Yes, my love, this is what's being protected. And so the degree on this that I love is Aries 3, the outer casing of the Great Pyramid being removed. It's like whatever somebody tried to put a dunce cap on your head and hoodwink you. This is like us taking that thing off. And why here, let me just move my image out of the way so you can see what I'm going to show you. Like here, if I move myself, this is the north node of the moon here, and it's been lifting things off in the house of 8. This is like where magic comes to move things for us, where a big magnet gets to sweep. And why, for me, I love seeing it there. I have an 8th house sun personally, and so it's like the most magical place to have your sun, in my opinion. And so it's like when we see that, we know where to lift things off so that they're not in our way. And that is what Chiron is here to do for us, is to prove these things and to protect how we have our love and our ability to express it. And so the outer casing of the Great Pyramid being removed, so you're not being hoodwinked. Candor, stark naked honesty, getting rid of all false coverings, going for what counts. You are sharply intent upon getting at the truth and staying on the truth. Self-disclosure. Exactly what I'm doing here. Being your disc jockey at the same time. An extraordinary aptitude for reality. You are the world's most direct person, willing to be seen and known unequivocally. And that is so many of you too. I've had several of you reaching out to me for readings too, and I will just tell you, some of the feedback that you actually give yourself when you're reading with me is so dynamic, just to even hear, where it's actually really, it's enriching for me as somebody that you've trusted to work with, to even see how direct some of you all have been and how you cross-reference and check yourselves to make sure that you're on a good path with your own guidance, that you can trust yourselves. And that's actually a really wonderful way to be, in my opinion. So you are the world's most direct person, willing to be seen and known unequivocally. The jackhammer treatment. Blunt, brutal, and straightforward, devoid of charm or grace, but right on the mark. Gutsy and truly incorrigible, and that is the position we are being encouraged to have in our mind as the one that's protecting this design for us to shine. And where it leaves us is with a cup of overflowing, clear water. You know? Cultus claris vasa. And what it is to receive the water with the water bearer. So on that, we'll have a sip. This is where we're considering what's been happening with our moon right now before we go into the new moon coming up on the 28th. Very romantic, passionate time where we come into more balance because of these things that might have been inconvenient for us to have to deal with, where we're having to take a new look at what even makes sense to be here at all. So, now, on to the moon, because we're going to talk about where our degrees have landed, because we walked out of all of that with a fire moon and literally erupted into Virgo, where I grabbed some of this today. And Virgo 1 was actually a volcano erupting at night, where the magnets fell and we could see beings, cars, things twisting. I heard about several of them today where it was literally as if something tumbled in the night, like rocks or magnets, and pulled things across. And we saw that in very slow, delayed places where even my neighbor was blown across the street, and different things that we're seeing that help us realize maybe we're not in Kansas anymore. But Virgo 2 came up. A man hanging upside down from a tree. I don't know where that one is, honey, but I'm hearing that this was, for some of you, this might be helpful, because I'm hearing it's like, if you were going through any of those things that had been prescribed as symptoms where people were telling you, you're going to have a rough day on Thursday because Mars and Pluto are having a tough time communicating with each other. Not really the truth. It's just if you're in a karmic cycle and it's like the magnets are coming together, you might get trapped in that. But that doesn't mean that Mars and Pluto are disharmonious. That just means karma, and get out of the way and make sure that you're working with the magnets right. Because some of us were actually playing hanged man while this stuff was going on and just, chilling out like the hanged person does, hanging upside down on that tree and just like, hey, I could get off this tree if I want. This is time for yoga where I'm seeing what the heck is happening around me. Where we open this up today, here, was at Virgo 3, a woman doing delicate embroidery. And it's great because I actually walked out. I'm about a day ahead on some of this to see somebody literally doing this. And it was like right in front of me with a sewing machine. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly what we're walking in. And every single one of us have a carbon copy of this. We're synchronizing this data so that, maybe this sounds boring to you. Maybe you didn't want to find a woman doing delicate embroidery today. But what I'm saying is, if the puzzle works for me, works for you, works for all of us, where we can actually see where we are in this, where nobody's stuck in the cogs of the wheel, we can actually mechanically move the elements better. So Virgo 3 is where I open this, and this is what this one says, because this is actually where we decided how we get dressed and why Peppa the Pig is safe, and why on Friday last week, when those of you did a strange experiment with me where we were literally creating this over again with the maker's clay in a scientific experiment where you all went hermetic with me and some neurolinguistic programming, me dropping some very special prescribed symptom to heal through the Hegelian dialectic with some good friends of mine. We actually were working on correcting with our neuroplastic model where we come through the clay, we take ourselves through the deep dream weaver experience together, recreating these things just like children, and then Peppa the Pig showed up to dictate a story and help us see how in the year of the dog, when we got the messages, E.T. phoned home, how do we make sure that everything is safe and that wolf that's barking at the moon knows that it's okay to be a wallflower being hugged at the same time in a unique way for an internal process where some of us are being alchemized from the inside, and why that delicate embroidery left us back on today in time for tomorrow, Friday, just like last Friday, because it's the same day with the same sigil energy landing, just slightly different because of how the calculator works, and where now we're not just the mini dolls that got expressed into the mini homes that are all perfect, but now we also have clothes. And maybe you're not a small piglet, but where it left us off was a small piglet dressed in baby's clothes. And where, if we didn't land on these things together, we might have landed in the Nazi germination experiment that is being proven right now at 0 point, where we prove that dead is actually germ ads, and how ads that got introduced on the Google wishing well actually incepted themselves into a design where we have weird things that aren't exactly like us, that look like us, that call themselves human, that are actually the result of a special kind of genetic modification that we're seeing, where we've been sort of homogenized into taking them for us. And a lot of them are actually very rogue. It's like They Live. If you've seen They Live, it's like how we can differentiate these now, and why it's weird that would land in the house of Virgo, where we've been proving that certain things didn't get surrogated and implanted and brought into life, and where some people actually, I don't know how much you guys study some of these weird things or hear about projects like what happened in Montauk and genetic experiments, but there are a lot of people that speculate that a lot of humans are in some way cross species with pigs. And if you actually read different religious books, I'll just reference the King James Version Bible because that one's right here beside me and I'm in it. There are plenty of explanations about how the Nephilim were all different parts of psychic parasites that were in one being, and that was the pig. And so we're hearing about crossing fibers and fabrics, and how if it's all just laced together and it's all layered on top of itself and it all bursts at the same time, we are made of everything. And if you read these religious books, a lot of them will caution you about, like, they'll say things like you're going to be in hell if you wear like mixed fabrics. And so if you hear this stuff, it sounds crazy, but if you're thinking about it, like your body is a bomb and you've got, look, I've got, wires that could cross and I could be detonated in different ways. What if the particle mixer is opening this up and the design that we thought that we appeared in wasn't where it was ending, but now some sort of inertia gets broken open, the body's open, and if you can't uncross because of the way your fibers are and you're tangled, it's like, that's going to be excruciating. That's like being ripped apart. And so I've literally seen this as a psychic empath and as somebody who had to travel through that wormhole, being dead and being poisoned to death by these doctors that gave me 4 hospital infections. It's like I had to go through all of these in like psychic containment. And so for me, when I hear this stuff, it's like it's perfect because we literally walked through the whole creation. We actually have taken ourselves through staging it big and then small, so everything was perfect, and then coming into small packages where everything was designed the same, and even down to having delicate embroidery done so everything fits right, and seeing the opportunity to be dressed in the baby's clothes, maybe next door to somebody who might have been a baby piglet dressed like you in the same clothes, and knowing the difference. And so it becomes really transparent where it's like, what are we looking at here? Are some of these things real, or is this like some weird Henson's thing that took itself next level and came alive and said bibbity boop? So I'm hearing winter is coming, and this is where it's been taking us, because it's like getting lost in the forest if you can't see yourself as one of the trees in the landscape, you see. And so as we were walking, a skull on a pole at the entrance to a dark wood, where now we know where we are, a banyan tree that creates an entire forest. And how what I've been telling you is that what we've been doing with this is we have been planting. And this is why Saturn is now direct. Saturn at 13 degrees Capricorn now is showing us what happened, where we got hung up on the cross, what's been in this review, why it is at 20 degrees Capricorn again. This has been the whole theme, and why only certain things get planted, and why it literally looks like, if you study algol, or what algol is all about, and this hostile star energy that is like the beheading energy, and why it's associated with Pluto, this is what's here. It's like what actually gets buried into the ground, where the protection is, and what doesn't actually go inside. And you can actually see it here in the sigil. And what we're talking about here is the banyan tree, the one seed that creates the entire forest where everything is safe inside. Also today, where nobody got genetically modified. And so where I just opened this again, let me open up the other chart because I'll show you where we landed. Somebody doesn't get to throw a pie in my face. I'll put it this way, and I'll just, put that on the, I'll just bring up the PewDiePie thing. Some people were asking how that got created. Personally, that was unintentional. I have been praying and doing a hedge of protection. I don't know how some of these beings can even function, to be honest with you, other than the psychic energy of all of us combined right now. And some of them turned out really, really good. And so what I will say about PewDiePie, I didn't even know who the fuck he was, because I live in a totally different world. I had to be called out by some of the engineers around me, like, Jacob, what do you think of that one? Did you make that one? And I mean, I've been hearing questions like that. I'm like, I don't take credit for anything like that, but I will tell you, nobody throws a pie in my face. And I've actually had some weird witnesses with this man where I kept seeing how the Nazi germination was to set somebody up who would actually be on a stature like PewDiePie, where they would look at him like God, and people would even come and say things like, oh, I wish PewDiePie would punch me in the face, or he's so hot I would let him do blah blah blah, or weird things that I hear people saying about this guy, how they objectify him. And why he was put on display is because, this is a Nazi germination. This is the Book of Revelation, where they would put somebody ahead that would actually look so perfect for this that he could get away with anything. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to, or that he would do that. I hear he's actually a really decent man, and that he says decent things. He's been very decent and awesome to somebody that's very important to me, and been kind about how he has shared things as far as I've witnessed. But I will say that when you pi energy, and it goes around and around and around, especially when things happen in sound where, here, they can't go wrong, because it's just a spiral of sound that was open in the center here, versus crooked, where a big piece might be here and a smaller piece might be here, where the brain is, and where things would get distorted as they got spun around. And why, for a lot of us, I'm just going to say, when these bodies start changing, if you don't have to use the bathroom the same way because something changes in the design, I don't think you're probably going to be too hurt about it. I know a lot of us would just be like, great, wow, that's one less thing that I don't have to do, because of how the dark particles can actually be removed as the body is reoriented on a molecular level. And I will just say that that's the way I'm reading about this pie, because the way that this has otherwise been written was kind of like a mockery to throw people into submission, where it's like you're going to see the other side of your energy doing very successful somewhere while you are left someplace to be in pain. And that's actually been the model. And that's actually been what I've been explaining to you all. It's like in your 12-strand DNA, some of you have been more like strangulated. There's like parts of your creativity that's gone out and literally birthed itself in a strand somewhere, like a cable that blew up and is in Hollywood somewhere, or is like writing books somewhere. And sometimes it's just like the other part of your mind that went somewhere, because we're all shared together like that. And this isn't to put some weird competition between you and other people, or like, oh, they're doing more, or you're the real originator. It's not that. It's just showing us that there's chaos, and that some of us have these particles that have been expanded, and that there's a stake that goes from one to the other. And so now, Virgo 7, this is where these things don't get slammed on us. We don't get rammed like that, where what we did instead was become aware of what the reflexive mirroring of self by world and world by self actually takes a performance of action and reaction and cause and effect. And where today, when we open this up again, this was more about what we were going to do with the colors and the names, since we know we're not humans. We're not the ones that stole the energy from Hugh, or took a name, flipped it upside down and said, oh, I'm man or woman, and just take that energy and that one's mine. Instead, we sat here and we were putting our energy together and looking at what we can do with the design. Because with these colors and the new names, like the new tune that the pen has to write with, like Neptune, like pen, tune, Neptune, retrograde, new prescription here, what we hear, what we see, what we create with the sigils. So, Virgo 8, a man thinking up names for colors. The mind is a hilarious thing. It populates the world with its many ideas on top of what is there, and they can no longer see things in themselves in their pristine light. We trade direct experience for a culturally rich consciousness. The mental set is marvelously intricate and detailed. Becoming conversant with the human sphere takes up all your time and energy, drawing you ever further into complexity, multiplicity, and appreciation for the beauty and the brilliance of the best in culture and civilization. The refinements and elaborations are infinite in scope. Excuse me. You become an expert. A central force, an adept in working the mind's magic. In the largest picture, this is a perfecting of human intelligence and its concrete, penetrating power, combined with its far-ranging spread into variety and universal brotherhood. It remains narrow spectrum, rational throughout, but does this up the best it can be done and a little bit better. So it's like how we up the ante on ourselves by taking a new look at what is actually in the culture and what we would consider civilization in this. What is the best that we can do with these things? Take on some weird, like, hocus pocus. Here's what history told us about some shit that we can't even prove now, except for that it was a cracked up concoction of torrents and particles that exploded, and then like these degraded creatures just carrying stories and sigilling them to us? Don't think so. That's not what happens now. Now we can do much better with the color and the energy that we understand is intact and how to keep ourselves intact. So I'm all about that. And I'm going to hit the pause on this real quick. For those of you that are live with me, thank you. I got a phone call that I'm going to need to attend to. I'll be right back, and I'll probably just snip this here and edit it for the upload that's going up here in a little bit. And we'll return. For those of you that are going to be here enjoying it, I'll leave it with a song. Let's see here. Get you a good jam. And I'll be back very shortly. Let's see here. We'll go with, oh, here we go. Power by Tune Yards, one of my new faves. We'll go there. Turn this one down now. Hopefully you guys liked it. Highly recommend that song. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And thanks for being patient. Had to go check on my dad. All right, so now we are back with a little smudge. On tomorrow, I don't know how much more of these I'm going to walk you through. I think we're going to get to some cards here. I could just go off on these for a while. There's so much that we could talk about where these degrees actually come into focus with what is actually happening with the transit of energy. On the inside of this, it's not what's happening on the outside. It's similar, but it's like looking at it from the other side of the glass. It's a little different than if you're actually inside, how it lands. And so I'm finding that this has been helpful, and I could probably spend a lot more time on it, but I'm not going to delve into that too much more. I will just say that tomorrow, well, this is actually where we are right now. This is where this is all transiting right now. It's actually right here on the 8. So, our moon, our actual moon, the calibration on this for Friday is that 8. The 8 Virgo. Grab that here. Virgo. 2 Virgo. So we've got the man thinking up names for colors. Learning what to do. so that it fits better. This is about universal brotherhood. This is like, for me, this is a new call for what we could even conceive on what Big Brother is in a world where now it would behoove us to not be so afraid about what people saw, knowing that it was already seen. And this has been the weirdest thing for me to talk to people about. It's like some of the inconvenient things people have seen because of how the eye actually works and why it's important that nobody takes that color and steals from us, and why where we go with it tomorrow is very interesting, especially looking at that caduceus and how we don't get created in that false image, because the man mixing the sea to prove what he meant, you know, the cement and the pincushion, and where the caduceus actually gets planted in anything, where our gnosis is. This is what we are experiencing and what starts coming through tomorrow. And so I'm just gonna put that here because there are only certain things that we're planting. So imagine selectively choosing the one particle and how it gets distilled to us, and that's literally how we take flight in the ascension column. So these are the things that are happening, where we're taking ourselves through this process, leading us up to where the new moon in Libra will be. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. But for now, we're going to see why the cow jumped over the moon. Hey, Archangel Gabriel, are you here? Would you like to help us with a song? Thank you. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to change views. And we're going to do a side-by-side here. And I'm going to get the headphones because I want to hear the song too. How'd you guys like that Power by the Tune Yards? Wasn't that hot? I love that song so much. Okay, so somebody's in love. All right. Lamonte just jumped out of my deck. Wow, okay. This is crazy. All right. Somebody, I don't know who this is for. Whoever you are one lucky, because you're getting a house visit. We saw some message coming directly to the house for somebody. I see somebody literally going to somebody's house, the lover. They're showing me right to the door, and look, it's like, boom. It's the lover here, Lamonte. Somebody is getting brave. Let me move my Coke out of the way here. Got a vanilla Coke, but yeah, we've got Viaggio here showing up. This is somebody that's taking a trip. Here's E. Dilettanti, and I'm hearing for somebody, it's like, I might be a little tipsy when I get off of that airplane because I didn't put my hands on you. That's what I heard. It's like I had to have a weird conversation with somebody about how I could even get this address, is what I'm hearing. Somebody, okay, I'm not getting a stalkerific vibe on this. I'm getting like a surprise sort of thing for somebody, but it's like somebody making plans to actually show up. And here it's going to go over great. So let's see what we have. I'm going to shuffle the cards, and we are going to travel over to the Astrological deck and see what we can find. Where are you? Wait for me, honey. Ah, there we are. Okay. Are we ready? Now, what do my babies need to know about? All right. Okay, somebody is literally going to take an airplane. I'm hearing it. I was just hearing it here. So we've got Aeroplane by Bjork, one of the highly most romantic songs ever. I freaking love this song. This is the How Bad I Need to See You. I did something crazy to come see you in person, and you're gonna see me soon. And it's about love. It's a reunion, and the little baby shows up. Amore right here because somebody can't help themselves. live peacefully without you. Far. They said stop right there. A moment. I miss you terribly when you're away. And what somebody might need to know, I'm hearing that might be a really good surprise for somebody. Consolante sorpresa here. That's somebody who might have just found something that made him smile. Especially if it might have been some kind of communication that shows up. And I'm hearing, might be a text message for you. And it might be somebody who keeps it light or something, and it could also be like, here's my flight, you need to know what I'll be wearing when I show up too. Will you come and pick me up? Because La Grezza is the one that just flies in gently and knows how to take a safe landing there. And I'm hearing for somebody it's like, just send me the details, because we've got El Pinciero there, and that's somebody who's there looking at what's written on a letter. And maybe it's an itinerary, and I'm hearing for somebody else, this is like, okay, you're gonna think I'm crazy here, but I need you to come see me, and I'm wondering if you could do these things. I've got a list of what I need help with, and the company is gonna foot all the bills and cover your stay and accommodations here. And I'm hearing, what's the per diem, baby? Let me know. What am I gonna have to wear for all of the shows? Because I'm hearing for somebody, this is actually like some kind of communication coming about a surprise engagement, or might be a surprise to you where you're being asked to speak or show up. And for somebody, it might actually have to deal with the passing of the guard is what I'm hearing. It could very well have to deal with somebody's family member passing too, because I'm hearing about somebody being asked to officiate or to speak at a memorial. But I was hearing for somebody else, this is about the passing of a guard. It's like somebody got terminated and you're gonna find out about it. I'm hearing for somebody, it's like somebody got canceled or cut, or their contract was over for something, and you might have been scoped for something here. And I'm hearing it might be a little bit of a surprise, or even a big surprise for somebody, especially if you receive some correspondence that might come out of the blue about it, and being told, hey, this thing came to an end and we really have a need for somebody who can fill XYZ. And I'm hearing you might actually have to be kind of creative about it. You might be working on it over the weekend too. And for some of y'all, it's going to be wonderful, because it's going to give new life to whatever it is that maybe you didn't realize you were actually doing, but it's something that you were doing. It's just like you needed a different perspective from somebody about where they were witnessing that, and it's actually going to give you a whole new thing that you can do, a whole new direction with your vitality and your energy, and it's going to be a wonderful infusion for you, especially over this new moon coming on Saturday. So we're actually going to be back tomorrow on Friday to talk about that some more. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my life, and thank you to those of you that support my spirit work. I had a great time doing an unboxing earlier today with some of you on my Twitch, where we went through the Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. I also have another new deck of Black Moon astrology cards that I'm going to be doing an unboxing with most likely tomorrow. If you like, follow me at Twitch. My information is below. That's most likely where I'll be doing the unboxing and sharing some cards. And I will also be back tomorrow to talk about that new moon and do La Vera Sibila. If you'd like a personal reading, just hit me up here or below. My information is there. I would love to do that for you. Take care. Bless you. And we'll be back for another one soon. Bye for now.